Branding has gone beyond the logo, beyond business cards, beyond the basics. If you're going to make it in today's multimedia landscape, you are gonna need to call in the cavalry. Logos, social posts, images, typography, all working together to tell your story. But can you do it yourself? Let's find out. I'm Ivana Taylor. I'm the host of Bizapalooza Chat, and today we're going to turn your boring, bland, and ho-hum brand into brilliant. Now, our chat today is sponsored by Taylor Brands, a DIY logo design tool that not only designs your logo in minutes, but will integrate your entire brand into your social media channels, schedule your newly tricked out posts, and then measure the results. Now, our special guest today is Yali Sar. He's the co-founder and CEO of Taylor Brands. He's a former creative for BBDO and chief creative officer for RTB. In case you didn't know, these are some of the best ad agencies in the world. So Yali's been on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, and today he is here with us. Welcome, Yali. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So before we jump into this whole conversation about Taylor Brands or updating your brand, tell me a little bit about the Taylor Brand platform and what inspired you to create it. Like, what was your passion or peeve that was behind it all?
So when we started Taylor Brands roughly 4 years ago, all we really wanted to create was an algorithm that could think creatively. At the end of the day, working at creative agencies, what we realized is there's always an equation of money equals, time and quality. And we wanted to break that. So we started tinkering with the idea of creating a platform that could give any business whatever WPP, IPG, Omnicom publicists can give, Starbucks or Coca-Cola, but for a budget they can actually buy. And that's how we gave birth to Taylor Brands, which is a fully automated branding agency.
It really is. And we're going to get into details because I've played around with you guys forever. Since you started, I've known about you. So I'm thrilled to bits. Now, from what I recall, it started out as a social design tool. But what's really exciting is that you've sort of gotten into this social media posts, the sharing features, and I'm not going to lie, one of my favorite features that I think is so important in today's outsourcing marketplace are the fact that you actually created like brand books and style guides. That's brilliant. So talk a little bit about that. How did you decide to expand?
So we really started out as using our technology to create logo designs, right? And we did that. We saw there was a very big need for that when we entered the space in 2015. Basically, all you had there was, kind of DIY makers that were either really simplistic. So if you were let's say you were a handyman, it would give you a wrench, right? Or you had kind of these crowdsourcing platforms that usually wouldn't really give you quality results for the money that you were actually putting in. And we started doing that, and we grew. Today, Taylor is the biggest when it comes to logo design in the US. And when we looked at our customers, we asked ourselves, okay, what is the next step from there? And we already had this AI technology that could design, that could be creative. And we realized, okay, you have a logo. What is the next step of your business? It is, creating those business card designs, understanding your brand, getting the first presentation to go to the bank and get a loan. So we continued on there, and then all of a sudden, that succeeded, and we were like, okay, what is the next step now? And we realized that people needed a place to be found. So you have, website design companies, but a lot of the small businesses, a lot of the projects, they start out on social media. It's the easiest way for them to get out there, get customers. So we wanted to use the platform in a way that would allow you to open up a Facebook page and create this strategy and post for you and do everything for you, but without you needing to be a social media expert. And that is what Taylor Social is, right? It's a fully automated, social media management platform that opens up a social page for you, creates the right content for you, finds the right content for you, posts for you. It does everything. And that is, basically a marketing media agency in your hand.
That's a great explanation. And I sort of want to, I want to talk about a couple little things in succession. And, we're going to come back to a lot of these explanations that you've given. Now, I have to ask this question because I'm sure I'm sort of asking on behalf of the audience. How can a platform, even though it's artificial intelligence, actually replace a designer? I played with a thing. It's pretty good. But, leave it to us. We can make anything ugly.
So that was exactly the problem that we tried to solve. One of my co-founders, Tom, is a graphic designer. And, every time that we asked him, okay, how are we designing this logo? He went on a platform, one of those kind of simple, drag and drop, and said, here, I created an amazing logo. And then I went there and did the same thing, and it went out and it looked horrible, right? So we really tried to understand, okay, what's going on in your head when you're designing something? And when we look at anything creative, right, it doesn't matter if it's a logo, it doesn't matter if, it's a social post. At the end of the day, there's an equation for it. When you write something, I was a journalist for a period in time, and when you write enough articles, at the end of the day, you have this template in your head, and you go to an interview, and you know how to write whatever it is, and you just kind of change the bits and pieces. And what we found out with Tom was that he already knew the logo that he wants to design to somebody when he first, went and met with a client. So we created a funnel that actually asks you the same types of questions that a designer would, but there are no templates in the background. So once you finish, the system actually in real time takes all of these answers and matches the right fonts and the right, structures and the right colors. Because at the end of the day, if you say that you're opening up a fashion brand, right? If you're not a designer, that would say, okay, I don't know what that, visually means. But if you tell that to Tom, he knows immediately, okay, you're looking for a font that is called Dido. Why? Because the top 100 fashion firms all use the same font, and that's what we recognize with fashion. Understanding these rules and understanding how the system is able to basically build upon those rules and then also, evolve and be creative as time passes, that is the core of Taylor Brands.
So I got to ask this question. You just made me think of it. Do designers actually use Taylor Brands? Like imagine someone who's like like your Tom friend. Do they actually jump into Taylor Brands to do something like real quick?
So the interesting thing is we never kind of aimed Taylor at designers, right? We aimed it for small businesses. Today we have over 7 million small businesses using the platform. But we started seeing patterns of people that were creating numerous logos with the system. And when we drilled down to it, we realized that we have not only designers, but actually agencies that are using Taylor. Some of them are using it for good purposes, like just getting inspiration, which is great, and we encourage it. Others actually use it and then resell it, which we totally encourage, but we also know that they're putting a very high, price tag on it. So if you created something with Taylor for $10 and then you go and resell it for $5,000, that kind of hurts the democratization of branding, which is what we're trying to do here.
And I really like that. You must be my straight man. So you're bringing to mind this other question. Let's talk about copyrights, right? How does that work with Taylor Brands?
So whatever you design is yours. We actually offer, everything on Taylor Brands is a subscription based, right? But the beautiful thing is the subscription is only for the tools. Everything that you create with the tools stays completely yours, regardless of, whether you paid this year, last year, or 10 years ago. We wanted to make that as straightforward as possible. And in order to do that, one of the issues of this industry is that a lot of it is kind of hidden from the customer, right? You don't understand the hidden fees of, maybe licensing something afterwards. You don't get to see the work before you pay for it. Taylor is all about, see before you pay. And whatever you get, that's kind of the final price that you ever need to pay us.
I like that. So let's talk a little bit about strategy, right? Because you guys are, I have to admit, I haven't played with the social platform yet, but that's because I have a project that I'm going to run through the entire system. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay.
So I'm really excited to do that. But let's really talk about strategy, right? First things first, who is the ideal customer? It seems like it's got to be like maybe like a startup, someone who doesn't have all these things already. I mean, that's sort of obvious. Who else is the ideal customer for this entire platform, right? With the social and everything.
So the beautiful thing is we have over 40 different segments in Taylor Brands. We have everything from artists, because at the end of the day, artists are, a single person business, right? We have brick and mortar stores. If you're, an old couple somewhere and you run your own shop and you don't know how to use the internet so well, we do it for you. We have startups that simply don't have enough manpower to do this, or not enough, expertise. And that's what Taylor does for them. And we even have large corporations that they are actually using it because it gets them through all of the bureaucracy they would need to get through otherwise. Because at the end of the day, if they need a social media team and they don't have the budget for it, instead of waiting a year to get the budget for it, they're using what we give them. So, it's really everyone out there. We even have, all the way through soccer moms that are creating brands for their kids' soccer teams. Whatever your project is, our only hope is that we can help you make it a reality.
That's really lovely. And I sort of want to summarize some of these things, right? So it's kind of like, regardless of where you're at in your business, you kind of don't have the time or the resources where like the social media thing is important to you, but maybe not as important as actually doing your business.
It could either be that if you're a lawyer, and it's more important for you to invest time in your business, that's one thing. But at the same time, I got to tell you, when I started Taylor Brands, I had literally zero idea of social media. I did a lot of, creative hacking and creative marketing techniques, but I just didn't know what to do in order to get, this thing going. So, I read some stuff and I posted some stuff, but it never really worked. And, the time it took me just wasn't worth it. So this is kind of getting you from 0 to 10 within 10 minutes instead of you taking 6 months to learn all the basics.
Well, I can tell you, no matter what business you're in, even if you're a marketing expert, we all have favorite platforms, which means that like if Twitter is my favorite platform, I'm great on Twitter. I totally get it, right? But then there's platforms like Instagram or Pinterest that are more visually based. And I'm not going to lie, I suck at Instagram, right? And now you've got me thinking that this might be a great way to sort of supplement these visual, because you need images.
Yeah, but let's even take the things that we're good at, right? Even if you're good at something, you might be good at it when you need to do it for one brand, 2 brands, 3 brands. At some point, there's a tipping point, right? And at that tipping point, as even a freelance, right? A freelance marketer, you want to expand. You either want to expand and offer more services, meaning that you need to automate some of the services that you're currently providing, or you want to expand to more people, meaning, again, that you need to automate and make your process easier. Taylor Brands really offers the best of both worlds here.
So let's talk about some strategies. Maybe you can kind of share either what you've learned or how Taylor Brands works on this social media posting. What are some best practices or branding tips that you might want to share with some of our audience?
So, today I have the privilege of, even if I didn't know anything to begin with, today we manage so many social media accounts that I can just see what works and what doesn't. And the first thing that I think people are missing, that there is such a thing called social media branding, right? We tend to forget it. We tend to call it marketing. But before we even do that, we need to remember that there are two key things. And it's, first of all, creating consistency. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like your, business card. You want to make sure that if somebody saw your site and then meets you on Facebook, he knows to connect those two dots together. So you want to make sure that there's consistency regardless of whatever platform you're at. If you're using a certain, color scheme, fonts, whatever it is on Facebook, use it on Instagram and Twitter as well. The second thing, and it helps consistency, is finding the right brand voice. And your brand voice isn't necessarily your voice. That's what people often forget. The brand voice should be the voice that your customers want to hear. At the end of the day, it's all about science. So if you're not sure what it is, test, test, test. It's very easy to disappear inside a social feed. And you really want to be able to kind of float above the rest. If you're not sure what pops out, just try. If you're not sure if blue or red pops up in your customer's eye better, try doing a blue post than a red post. See what get more engagement, and just A/B test, A/B test, A/B test, A/B test, or use Taylor Brands to do it for you until you get to that right mixture that gets the most amount of engagement.
Okay, now you got to go back. Or like when you were saying A/B test, get a fork, stick it in my eye. And I know most people feel this way. But then you said, or use Taylor Brands to do it for you. Now you got to say more about that.
So basically, the way that Taylor Brands works is it starts posting on your social media, right? It asks you prior, of course, to get approval and get your trust in the system. But what it would do is it would say, okay, you opened up a restaurant, right? And it would ask a couple of questions about who your customer base is, what is the type of vibe that you would like to kind of transmit. And then it would say, okay, let's start off by posting an article about food, okay? Or let's post, an inspirational quote. Now, we post both of these, and we see that the inspirational quote, let's say the article, okay, is working better than the inspirational post. Now, I'm going to take this article, and then I'm going to try and put 4 different articles from 4 different, magazines. Now, I see that, Food and Wine is working the best with your clientele, right? Now I'm going to try and post the same article on every day of the week. And I'm going to see that on Monday is getting the most amount of engagement. Then every hour of the day, not in the same day because you don't want to wear out your clientele. But at the end of the day, I get to this magic formula saying that for your crowd specifically, despite that the best practices are 12 p.m. and, after 6, for your clientele, they're morning people. When you give it, when you post for them 8 a.m. and maybe very late at night, like 11 p.m., most likely that would get the most amount of engagement, okay? Now we're going to create something that works for you in each one of those days. But then we notice that on Friday, they don't want to read, okay? So we're going to start posting inspirational quotes there. Now, the first inspirational quotes is working, not quite as we want it to. So we're going to try and give it different backgrounds. Suddenly we see that green pops up the best with your clientele, and so forth. At the end of the day, what Taylor does is by, constantly testing your audience and understanding when can it test without wearing them down, it finds the best match for you. And then you can basically leave it on autopilot, and it would continue posting the most shareable content, the most engaging content, and everything that best represents your brand.
I'm being like super quiet because I'm embarrassed to tell you that I was like, oh, this is so awesome. And this will be just like so good for someone who's, starting out and just so great. And sitting here thinking, I'm like, oh my God, I could totally use this. And I was not intending to use it, right? Because I would not have expected to recommend this to, like, let's say an influencer. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I could say, like, who the hell has time for this? And there are things that, I would definitely want to test and play with.
Yeah. So imagine even, an influencer. We all have our original content, and I would never want to replace your original content, right? But at the same time, there are two things that you have to consider as an influencer. A, it's the mathematics or algorithmics of the system itself. And the second thing is, how do you create, a fluency over the week, right? So you might be posting twice a week original content, but you need something to play around with to get your audience engaged doing those dead zones. At the same time, you want to understand when does your content works best. And there's a hidden catch, because as we all know, these social platforms tend to change a lot, right? So maybe you knew what exactly was working for you, and then suddenly, come Sunday, you post the same kind of video that you always post, and it's not working. Nobody's engaging with it. So maybe they changed the algorithm. Now, Taylor can automatically start, balancing that out. In what took you, 6 years to build an understanding of, Taylor can now do that for you in a matter of days.
I'm so excited. I'm such a platform geek, and I normally would prefer to talk about like different kinds of strategies, but how could you not be excited about that? That's fantastic. I cannot now. I have like so many things to do, and I can't wait. I think this weekend is going to be my day to mess around with this.
Amazing. Amazing.
You've absolutely, see, now I know how you got funding.
And I thought always it's because we were very nice and that's it. But maybe it's because it's also working. I don't know.
It could be working. Like I said, this is just, I can't wait to play with it, and I can't wait to share it with my friends. I think it's going to be terrific. Anything you want to share with a small business audience that you think they ought to know?
I think that one of the biggest issues I've seen, and this is something that I've seen, as I was working as an individual as well, and it's that we don't understand that there is no such thing as too early to start. We live in the world where everything becomes a lot more immediate. Today, even if you have a small restaurant, right? I'd be opening up my Yelp, and I wouldn't even look in the street to find what looks good in my eyes. So, as sad as it may be, branding is now important to everyone, because the true definition of branding is, that's what allows Starbucks to be selling the same coffee that a small bodega would sell for X times money, right? It's understanding that the perceived value of a product is as important as the actual value of it. And understanding how to create that perceived value is something that usually took either a lot of time or a lot of money. But there are tools today to help you do that. So, I obviously recommend using Taylor Brands, but if it's not Taylor Brands, use something else. Don't be, and sorry for using this phrase, but don't be a sitting duck. Because branding at the end of the day is a weapon. And everyone out there are using it. So, make sure that your product also has what it takes to rise above the rest.
I can't think of a better way to end this. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us, Yali, and thank you for sponsoring Bizapalooza Chat and being a real stand for branding.
Thank you so much.